Rasa Ride Sharing Company ARASA.ca என்ற இணையதளத்துக்கு சென்று The Rasa Drivers ஆப்பினை டவுன்லோட் செய்து டிரைவர்ஸாக வேலை வாய்ப்பை பெறுங்கள். மாதாந்தம் $4000 வரை சம்பாதியுங்கள். வணிக நிறுவனங்கள் Rasa இணையதளத்தின் மூலம் மளிகைப் பொருட்கள் மற்றும் உணவுப் பொருட்களை விற்பதோடு வாடிக்கையாளர்களுக்கு டெலிவரி செய்யலாம். தமிழில் தகவல்களை அறியாளையுங்கள். GTA பற்றி 40 ஆண்டுகள் அறிந்து கொண்டவரும் வீடு விற்பனை துறை ஊடாக மக்களால் அறியப்பட்டவருமான சிவா பிள்ளை 416-854-0005 taxi broker licensed by City of Toronto. Rasa Ride Sharing Company ARASA.ca என்ற இணையதளத்துக்கு சென்று The Rasa Drivers ஆப்பினை டவுன்லோட் செய்து டிரைவர்ஸாக வேலை வாய்ப்பை பெறுங்கள். மாதாந்தம் $4000 வரை சம்பாதியுங்கள். வணிக நிறுவனங்கள் Rasa இணையதளத்தின் மூலம் மளிகைப் பொருட்கள் மற்றும் உணவுப் பொருட்களை விற்பதோடு வாடிக்கையாளர்களுக்கு டெலிவரி செய்யலாம். தமிழில் தகவல்களை அறியாளையுங்கள். GTA பற்றி 40 ஆண்டுகள் அறிந்து கொண்டவரும் வீடு விற்பனை துறை ஊடாக மக்களால் அறியப்பட்டவருமான சிவா பிள்ளை 416-854-0005 taxi broker licensed by City of Toronto. Rasa Ride Sharing Company ARASA.ca என்ற இணையதளத்துக்கு சென்று The Rasa Drivers ஆப்பினை டவுன்லோட் செய்து டிரைவர்ஸாக வேலை வாய்ப்பை பெறுங்கள். மாதாந்தம் $4000 வரை சம்பாதியுங்கள். வணிக நிறுவனங்கள் Rasa இணையதளத்தின் மூலம் மளிகைப் பொருட்கள் மற்றும் உணவுப் பொருட்களை விற்பதோடு வாடிக்கையாளர்களுக்கு டெலிவரி செய்யலாம். தமிழில் தகவல்களை அறியாளையுங்கள். GTA பற்றி 40 ஆண்டுகள் அறிந்து கொண்டவரும் வீடு விற்பனை துறை ஊடாக மக்களால் அறியப்பட்டவருமான சிவா பிள்ளை 416-854-0005 taxi broker licensed by City of Toronto.
all.
Recording in
We're
progress.
just waiting for the rest of the people to join in.
Good morning, everyone. Just a reminder, keep yourself on mute. Seems like when everyone logs in, you're coming with the video off, but you're unmuted. So
yeah.
Unless you want to share us what's the conversation you're having at the moment, but other than that, you'd like you most likely keep yourself on mute.
Yeah.
All right. So while we wait for a few other individuals to join on board, again, so today. And listing presentation, basically, right?
Yeah.
Gopa?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Listing presentations, correct. Yes.
Exactly. So I think I coined the term how to master listing presentations. Yeah. It's not the first time we're speaking about listing presentations with Gopa Menon. We've had this discussion twice in the past, I believe, multiple times in the past, actually. Great session. I still remember some of the points from last year. So there's a lot to take away and also develop over the years as well. While we wait for a few more individuals to get on board, I just want to give everyone a small little heads up about interest rates. Yes, the Bank of Canada raised interest rates a few weeks ago by 0.25, but that is a given. That's something that we expected and we will continue to see throughout the year. I just want to remind everyone that the banks each individual banks are increasing their rates. From the of February or the end of February, we've been seeing a lot of increases in rates. Let's see. Just mute everyone here while they're coming in. So the news that I got a few days ago from TD Bank on the broker channel is that TD was one of the last banks to increase rates. Right now, we're seeing this weekend, majority of the banks, and yesterday, Friday, majority of the banks had increased their rates. 5-year fixed rates from 1 year all the way to up until 10-year fixed rates have gone up considerably. Even variable rates has gone up. This is aside from the Bank of Canada increasing rates. So the Bank of Canada increased their rates by 0.25, which affected everyone. However, banks are ultimately increasing rates even before the anticipated dates of the Bank of Canada rates. So recently, this is an email that I received 2 days ago. I'm going to be reading out the rates from you at TD Bank at the moment. Again, TD Bank is probably offering the lowest rates compared to the other top 5, CIBC, RBC, BMO, Scotia, and National. TD Bank's 5-year fixed rate right now is 3.69.
Wow. In
December or January, I was able to probably get 2.5% or even close to 2.2%. Right now, the average 5-year fixed rate is 3.69. The variable rate is 2.15. This is with the discretionary pricing that's out. So now we're seeing variable rates within the 2%, and we're seeing fixed rates, the average 5-year fixed at 3.69. You'll be still able to get a 1-year fix around at around 2.84. But just want to let you know, this is not news that's out there. No one's really talking about how the banks are increasing interest rates, but this is something that everyone should be aware of. Banks are not going to be advising that their discretionary pricing is going to be going up. Only individuals within the industry are going to be knowing that. So the bank employees, whoever's working at TD, whoever's working at CIBC as employees, also everyone in the mortgage broker world, they're going to be advised about increase in rates. We are seeing now, which is an interesting part, B-side rates, let's just say from Community Trust, Home Trust, their 1-year fixed rates, and also the banks, top 5 banks, 5-year fixed rate is the same amount. 3.64, 3.59, that's the average rates we're seeing on the B side, and 3.69 is what we're seeing on the A side. So be mindful of that when you're, discussing rates and, the industry movements with your clients, and just try to look into this yourself at the institutions that you're with, just for additional information. But continuously, we'll probably see in the next couple of months, variable rates will be at 2.5%, while we will see the 5-year fixed rates probably in the high 3%. At 3.69, we're definitely going to see it in the 3.8 ranges. Also, B-side rates. Back in 2018, 2019, we've seen B-side rates in the 4% range. We're definitely going to be seeing that this year as well. So just a widespread information to everyone that the rates are on the rise, regardless of what the Bank of Canada is doing at the moment. So I think that gives everyone some understanding. If anyone has any questions, let me know. And once I hear further information from banks increasing rates, I'll advise you guys as well. Try to get pre-approvals, but then again, it's really not advisable to get a pre-approval because your application will look different from what you submit in order to get the pre-approval. So I think that's about it. If anyone has any questions on that part, you can ask me right now. And if not, I can leave the floor to Gopa.
I will wait for anybody to. Anyone have any question for Kanna? All right. Anyway, good morning, everyone. And Kanna, thank you for that. And I think, it's a good information. And I really like that you always give that first few minutes giving the industry update. That's a very good practice for the brokerage meeting, right? It's actually give a flavor about all of them, like, what's happening in the market. So it's a good start. And again, well, folks, we have been talking about a lot of other topics like motivation, business planning. We spoke about prospecting in the previous class and all that. So now for the last 2 years, because of pandemic and nobody know what happened in the Canadian real estate market, right? Everybody was crazy. The prices were so high and people were buying left, right, center, right? There were multiple offer coming and all that great. So everybody thought that the real estate business is actually really, easy. I'm not saying that it's going to be tough, but this is the time when the market rate, the interest rate is going to change. Now people are going to be more cautious about all other things happening in the world, the Ukraine war and all that. All that will have an impact because the investors will be slowed down a little bit. It's like share price, right? So this is the time you have to really brush up your professionalism and the knowledge and more strategic in the business, because if you're not going to have that strategy, it's going to be very, very tough to crack a deal moving forward because it's not going to be that easy. So, but people who have been really done their homework, people who have really understand the business, they will still continue to raise in this real estate business. So my point here is, it's not that I'm giving the message it's going to be tough. You have to be a little more strategic. All these for the last 2 years, you can shoot in the dark and you will get a deal, right? That may change. That trend may change because you have to really brush up the tools in your bag, and then you have to be a little more active and you have to be a little more strategic. I know Kanna wants to say something, but I'll actually say three things. The most 3 things in the real estate business is this, they call the 3S, right? Which is your strategy, your schedule, and the system, right? That comes, everything cover the real estate business, holistically speaking, the 3S. So I'll explain to you what are the 3S. So strategy is, what is your strategy? Are you actually going to run behind only pre-construction, or are you actually going to farming certain area? You're going to be like an expert in only for leasing and this thing, or commercial? What's the strategy, right? You got to be really careful. You got to understand what's your strategy, and have a plan in that. Strategy in the broader word, the actual meaning, what is strategy is simple meaning is, what's your game plan, right? Your game plans, you need to understand that's what strategies and meaning is, right? So what's your game plan in this business? Where do you want to take this business to that? The second S is the schedule, which is, the time management. Like schedule means how much time you spend on prospecting, how much time you spend on following up people, how much time you spend on going to office and networking, and all those things, and how much time you're following up and closing the deal and all that. That's what's your schedule. The third thing is the system is from prospecting till you close the deal. How do you manage the business, right? So prospecting time, and then you get somebody materialize that, then what system are you using it? I'm not talking about the computer system you're talking here, your system. So the 3S in the business is very critical: your strategy, your schedule, and the system. That covers the entire training program actually. So it's very important that you folks really brush up these things, understand it's going to be very tough is maybe not a right word. It's going to be a little more, you have to be really professional, and that's only those people are going to be successful. I mean, that's what the real estate. So real estate business is not going to go away. You have to be a little more strategic in that. Kana, were you trying to add something?
Yep. Meanwhile, I'm just trying to mute some individuals here. Perfect. And perfect. All right. Yeah. No. But as you said, each session here develops on itself. So there's continuing education going forward, right? So I think it's always nice to look back at some of the previous sessions that we had and see how you can develop with what the subject is today. And with what I said earlier about interest rates and etc., it's always important, especially in our industry, to be up to date with what's happening in the industry, what's happening worldwide, and how it affects us, right? Simple things. There's new chatter that New York may not be going ahead with, time changes anymore, especially with the recent time change that we've seen over the last Sunday. We may not see that anymore. So those are interesting topics that will be not affecting the market, but those are things to know, that others may not. And these are ways you have an intellectual conversation with your clients and your colleagues to promote yourself in a different manner. So, knowledge and always building up on new industry norms and activities and information is definitely important. Just the interest rates that are brought up earlier when we're discussing is something that many people are not talking about now. Especially, everyone talks about when the Bank of Canada is increasing rates. That's not news anymore. We knew 100% last year that the Bank of Canada will be increasing rates between 4 to 6 times in the next 18 months. And we've seen that once, and we're going to continue to see that. However, internal banks have been increasing rates, several times over the last 3 months. That is really unspoken. The interest rates on a 5-year fix have gone up by 1%, 1 full percent over the last 3 months. You were able to get 2.1% now, and before, and now you're getting 3.69. at a 5-year fix. So it's 1.5% change within the last couple of months, right? So being up to date with, relevant information, not just, being politically involved in what's happening over Ukraine and Russia, but also understanding how it affects our market. Building your knowledge is key. And, remember, the real estate sector can be affected by multiple reasons, right? Just looking into the bond rates and how that affects interest rates will then tell you how it's going to affect give you intellectual knowledge of how it's going to be evolving in the rate, the prices of homes, right? Fluctuations in that. So definitely, each session that Gopa does, it's building on towards itself. And also remember, it's our responsibility to be aware of what's happening in the market and to be knowledgeable of that.
Yep. Good introductions. Thanks, Kanna. So folks, we will talk about the listing presentation. It's one of the most important kind of a last step. But again, that's where you sign the deal with the client. Like, in a very important, that's where you have to really more careful and also talking about all the objections handlings. We discussed about that objection handling last week. So this is the listing presentation is the times you wanted to cover up everything because that's where the real business starts starting. Like, when you're actually having the listing presentation, the contract is signed prior to that. You in the next day morning, like evening or whatever the time you're meeting the listing presentation, just an hour later, you're going to put the the signboard on there on the lawn, and then you're going to market the product from the very same moment itself, right? So I mean, it's an important last stage of the materializing a client and into a deal, and then it's a listing presentations. Is very critical, so you have to be really careful and how you prepare yourselves when you're going for a listing presentations. So I'll walk you through some of the tips and the best practices where what you need to do, what you have, how to actually prepare yourself. I'm hoping you all have something in place in listing presentations. You don't want to just get up and go with that. CMA is one thing which is pretty much everybody knows that, and like I mean these days, CMA is also all those. It's a good data to talk about it, but this information today's world is easy accessible for anybody, right? I mean, because of the internet, like I mean the social medias, anybody can go to House Sigma and check that. And so clients have an approximate idea about the pricing and all that, but at the more than the CMA, how can you actually show the differentiation, not just showing the CMAs which you pull from the MLS and doing that. So it's very important what should include in the listing presentations, and how you present yourselves, and how do you actually leave a good impression from there onwards, because these are the things towards the end of the deal you are able to manage the client well. So you will not go through a lot of the objections during the offer presentations, and like I mean closing the deal and all those stuff, because you've already discussed in the beginning, right? So it is already covered, you reiterated, we mentioned about those things in the last week. So just confirm, and like the open-ended questions and close-ended questions, right? I mean, when you go for the offer presentations, you ask them, so Mr. Seller, so you agree with closing after 2 months, right? I mean, those kind of things you don't want to leave any room for an conversations in the later stage. So it's a listing presentations and an important stage. So I'll show some of the presentation, best practices. In the meanwhile, anybody have any question before we dive into that topic? And can I actually share my screen?
Yep, definitely. I'm gonna make that available right now for you. Go ahead.
Okay. So, I mean, once again, I will say this, don't feel shy, open up and unmute yourself. Okay, I'm going to admit people. Yeah.
That's not a problem. I'll take care of that part.
All right. Okay. So no worry. Thank you. So just that unmute yourself and feel free to chime in if there is some things which we need to include. I know some of you are out. Share that, and if not, again, use the chat box. I will watch the chat box to see that and respond back to you. Any topic, like in general, like I mean, even if you're not something which we are not discussing today, or the one which we have discussed in the past, you wanted to actually talk about them. And then this will be, again, I will reiterate the importance, like from you asking question, you're immensely supporting the people who are on this call. Like, I mean, they may not have actually come through this question or a situation, so this will really give them an opportunity to understand and sharpen their knowledge, because as Kanna mentioned at the beginning, and this is going to be a little more challenging time ahead. So you have to be really, demonstrate the professionalisms and the knowledge in this industries to be successful, and to continue to gain the deals moving forward. So the listing presentations, as I mentioned, it is not just a CMA. There are a few steps you need to actually, before you do the listing presentations, pre-qualify 100% of the people before you go out. Pre-qualifications, again, I'm not just talking about just the mortgage aspects here, or the credibility here. Like, I mean, of course, that's an important thing. You need to know that, how much they worth it, what they can afford and all that. You need to have an approximate ideas, and then get that qualifications. But the motivation level, like, I mean, are they serious about it? Because otherwise you're just going and then you are ready to go and sign the contract, whereas the seller is sitting there, well, I'm still talking. Then my response to you is, there is something wrong with the way you actually manage the conversations and all the time. Listing presentation is 100%, this person is ready. to confirm the pricing, confirm the listing presentation. Think about it. You're going to confirm the pricing, confirm all what you have actually agreed upon, which is closing date and, where they are up to moving, or are they actually, downsize, upgrade, or moving to different cities and all that, those things. Third thing is you're actually talking about, when, when is this the final date we are going to actually put it in the market. So that's what the listing presentation. So 100% of the time you need to pre-qualify those things before you go and that. Why is it important? Because it determines if they are serious or not, right? I mean, or actually if they go and you're not wasting your time, we're not wasting their time. So this is, again, it shows the professionalism, right? I mean, how you're organized you are, and it demonstrates your professionalism. And it's also like it gives an the objection handling opportunity for you, because you had, during the prospecting time, they must, so many things must have come across. Like they must be actually worried about the price, they must be have questions about how will you close this and we get a new place, and is the downsizing is a good thing, is the, there are so many things they will have it, like will we get within our budget and all those things. So it is during the listing presentations, it is a time to handle all those objections, although you must have actually touched during the prospecting period, but at the time of the listing presentations, that is, you need to close those out, because there should not be any room for an objection once you sign the listing presentation, once you confirm the listing presentations, because then it's a serious business. There is no back and forth at that after that, right? So you should be actually covering all those objections ahead of time. And it's also, it's a perfect time to build the rapport, because you're meeting in person, you're showing some things which is, important to them. The seller is actually sitting and just signing that, so it will give you an opportunity to build the rapport a little more in a strong way, because it's going to be right. And once you make the listing presentations, whatever the way you made, maybe the best way, the professional way is to do that. The listing presentations, you can make it in PowerPoint, but if you're not comfortable in PowerPoint, you're okay to make it in something in a Word document. Keep in mind, guys, majority of the time you only have to spend time to make the listing presentation on the first time. Rest of the times you are updating for the specific property, right? So some of those information, the shell of the listing presentation is where you need to spend time and create that. Rest is actually you keep updating that. So it's not like, it's a whole lot of effort. Yes, the effort is the beginning. Like if you don't have a listing presentations in place today, yes, you need to spend some time and create one. Then it's some time consuming, whether it is PowerPoint or Word document. PowerPoint is easy because then you can actually talk through those, then it is actually do them. Whereas Word document, they may not read, right? The whole story, if you write it, they may not actually read through all those things. So it is easy to make it the listing presentations and the PowerPoint presentation, so that you can open up in front of them and walk them through that. You should actually either deliver it or the pre-listing package. Pre-listing package, you can include CMA, but I'll leave it up to you guys, knowing your client. Sometimes leaving the full information ahead of time is not a good idea, but you should know who you are dealing with and how trustworthy that client is, because CMA is a good information, which is you're giving an opportunity for them to do the pricing detail and all that. If you're absolutely sure you bought the client, then you include the CMA details as well. But the other information should be, again, your a list of personal references and list of names and phone numbers and all that. That you don't have to do that every time. Like, it's a one-time information. So you can actually do that just to demonstrate that you have been doing business in this and you have some references and all that. People need to know that, right? They should have, and think about yourself also. If you're getting your carpet changed or painting done, you will ask for references, right? And you wanted to see that how good are they. The same way, if you are able to show some of the references and some of the customer who can endorse you in a customer testimonial and all that, include in the pre-listing package, right? and your plan of action to sell the property. Like, what are you going to do? Like, not just putting it in the MLS. What more you're going to do to sell the property, such as you can list out a plenty of things, such as, like, your own website, your MLS, your network. And if you have any ready customers, call out those ones. Yes, I have a buyer who wants it from this side, all those things. And then a plan of action to sell the properties. You're going to do the virtual tour, you're going to set it up, you stage it, whatever you based on the commission agreement and all that, you need to actually list out the plan of action, right? And yeah, customer testimonials and the track record and all that. And the completed the CMA. See, listed price is, again, you don't want it to hurt the seller's sentiments. What you need to actually, like, the best way to do the price, you can actually leave the suggested price there. Sorry, suggested price, but you should have the number. Let them, some majority of the time, the sellers have an idea how much their house is worth. This may not be exactly as what the, it may not be realistic, because people have their emotional connections and all that. They tend to say more than what is actually, worth it. So for my best practice, or maybe you can actually, somebody can correct me if it is wrong, like the best practice to go with that is, you have the number, suggested price, leave it. Like, you make a note of it in the CMA. Ask that, what is the magic number in their mind. If you're really off what you have it in the CMA and what their expectation is, then you show the data. You say that, Mr. Seller, this is what it is sold in all this area, right? I mean, this is, and comparing to apples, this is what it's actually the market range is going on. You're asking, $1 million, but this is really worth around $850,000. I'm happy to actually list it, and then middle point, maybe around 900,000, and then let's see how we can do it. So you should know your customer. That's not something which we can actually, say that once you know that how they are, then it is actually show that. Somebody actually mentioned this in the last class, how do we go that, how do we convince them, because their expectation is really high. And that's where you wanted to really teach them, you are off the track, we can try. That's what it is, like, this is what the data shows, that because the number shows, right? And then a completed contract, because your contract, we need to make sure that is you're signing, because you're going to put the signboard tomorrow. Make sure, guys, before you putting the signboard on a coming soon board, make sure you sign the contract, because I have heard from a lot of real estate agents, they put the coming soon, but some otherbody took the business from them because they didn't sign the contract. They were so excited, they put the coming soon board on seller's lawn. Some other real estate agent came and spoke to them. They said that, oh, you're selling the house. Yes. And, we shouldn't be doing it to our peer group, but at the same time, there are people, you can't control it. So when you're putting a no coming soon board, make sure you sign the contract already. And your disclosure statements and moving tips, right? Some of them, it's a good thing, like, because when they're actually moving and all that, such as a list of things, like what are they need to do, then address change, and where do they have to do for the driver's license and all those things. It shows that professionalism, and it shows that care, like, they can actually, they really feel that, okay, somebody is there to, walk me through this process, right? It's not that go figure out, I sold the house, now it's on your own. Like, moving tips, if you have anybody, any contact in cleaners and, the lawyers, everything, you don't want it to recommend any third parties, because again, this is the real estate, like, we are not actually professional in those one, but you can give 3 options. You should have 3 contact for everything, such as you're the governors, like, the cleaning crew, lawyer, and the moving guys, or somebody wants to do some electrical work and everything. You should have around at least a three contacts. Let them decide itself that, what, I'm not recommending anybody. Here are the 3 contacts. You can actually find out home inspectors and all those things, and then let them figure out, let them speak to 3 of them and make the decision. In that way, you are covering your bases well, because you don't want to take those responsibilities what a third party is messing up something, but at the same time, you have to be with them. You have to hold their hands and help them in maneuver the process, right? Anybody wants to add anything? Let me see.
Good morning, Mr. Menon. Just one question.
Yep.
With regard to signing the contract before putting the coming soon sign.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Now, don't we have the days on the market then rolling from the day you put the coming soon sign, or you can sign the agreement with a listing date of a different date? So it won't affect the days on the market when you list it on MLS for sure. Because we are signing an agreement to purchase and sale, and we're going to date the date as whatever date we are signing it, right? So
yeah,
that's what I'm kind of a little bit confused. Can you elaborate on that?
I will try to answer, but then I let somebody chime in. I believe you can put the you should put the MLS on what date you have agreed with the client, from this date. But prior to that, you can put the coming soon board. There is no problem in that. But you can put the, let's say by March 19th, you are putting the coming soon board, but you're putting the property in the MLS between you and the seller had agreed to put it on March 25th. So you can put the March 25th. That day you must put it on the MLS because that's what you agreed between the seller and the you.
Thank you. So on the bottom line, we signed the date, we signed the agreement, but on the commencing date, we put the date as the date we are going to go on the MLS.
Correct. Signing the correct. Yeah, you can put the MLS. The contract can be signed today, but you can put the MLS date when you're going to put it in the MLS can be a different date.
Yeah, that'll be a good idea because you want to make sure you don't run the dates on the market from the date you sign the contract. That's what
exactly. Yeah, and again, coming soon is again, there are certain markets are crazy. So you have to actually, real estate agents shouldn't be stepping onto your other person, but people will do it. So that's why coming soon, because what happened, the seller does not have any loyalty to you, or you have not actually signed anything. Somebody you already agreed everything for 1% or whatever the commission and all that, and you put a coming soon board, somebody will go and knock the door and say that, okay, how much you agreed for? And then they will say that, well, I will do this, that I'll do that. Maybe that he is a better convincing person than you, and they can grab your business. So make sure you put the coming soon board, you sign the contract already.
Yeah, that's sound advice, but I don't think any of us does that,
No, I'm not saying you guys, there are all kinds of people there, right? There are so many things. Maybe he will actually change his mind. He'll say that, what, I was speaking to my friend and he said that let's do it on your own. It's covering up yourself, right? Showing the professionalisms. You wanted to do the best for yourself and for your client, right? I'm not saying you guys do it. And if we're not, there are a lot of people there in the market, right? So just
I was just making a joke out of it, just for fun.
Yeah. But thank you for your question. So again, before you go for that, call back to confirm they receive your pre-listing package, because you can either email it to them and you don't want to just email it and then not talk about it, because keep the same package with yourself. You email it prior to your meeting, at least a day before, because why? It will give them an opportunity. Maybe they will just glance it. So it will give you an opportunity when you go in person. If they have any question, they will actually discuss that with you. It's also a good idea to cover up all those, the objection handling, because then you have addressed those objections. You had actually, covered it up all that, then later on it will not come back. So that's why, call back and confirm it to them. Hey, Mr. Seller, I sent you the listing package. Did you get an opportunity to check that, right? Sometimes they will do it, sometimes they don't, but at least you wanted to demonstrate that professionalism there. And then the most important thing is you don't want to actually have a listing presentations with a one-legged appointment. One-legged appointment is only one decision maker is there, right? You want to make sure that all the decision makers are there in the room when you go and let's do the listing presentations, because you wanted to address everybody's concern. Because otherwise later on you will get into that pitfalls, my wife is saying that this date is not right, or my husband is. So it's important that you confirm that all the decision makers are there. And it's always a good to, like, I mean, call them up a day before and say that, hey, I'm going to meet you at 6 o'clock. We're going to do the listing presentations final. Do you have any question so that I can come prepared? So you are actually really trying your best to cover up all their concern, so that throughout the process, once you sign the contract, then the process will be a little more easy. Then you don't have to go back and forth. Yeah, I mean, he's also not going to come. Yeah, we have already addressed this, so it is already like, I mean, covered in our previous conversations, right? And then, of course, these things are small, like, I mean, it's a no-brainer. You don't want it to be late. I mean, unforeseen circumstances can happen, but then you, as a professional persons, you have to let them know if you are changing the meeting and all that. It's not a good idea, like, if you're changing the time for a listing presentations, because you have to make sure that is you show up on time and then show that enthusiasm. Practice the script. We mentioned about the objection handling, right? The objection handling, there are few things. Think about your previous listing presentation. If you have met with any client, what are the things which a client can ask? One is the commission. Like, I mean, you think about it, commissions, how do I respond to those ones, right? How do I actually, we have already discussed about one person, and we mentioned about what are the 2.5. How do you actually explain to them how you justifying your charges, right? I mean, objection handling. And then some of the thing, the pricing, like, listing price, how do you actually manage, convince them why you're recommending the price, this house price is 1.2, right? Or your objection that they're handling. You think about the scenarios you dealt in the past and the kind of questions you received from the client, right? I mean, moving, how do you actually going to manage the closing and the moving and all those things? So practice those one, because you don't want it to think at that point. You don't want it to blink, because that's where it shows the professionalism. You're ready to shoot the answer, right? And yeah, I mean, expect the questions will come, because you are actually going to sign some things which is somebody's hard-earned money. It's a lot of emotional value attached to that. So it is, expect that the customer client will ask that question, and prepare to give those answer. Like, I mean, it's a good thing they are asking question. That shows that they are engaged in the conversation, and it's also give you an opportunity that later on those kind of topics are not going to come, and then you can cover it in the beginning itself, right? Try to keep your presentations within 30 minutes, because over talking will derail the conversations. Because your idea in the listing presentation is confirm the price, confirm the listing date, confirm the like your marketing plan, and then the closing date, right? I mean, that's few things. It's few things you just touch on that, because the rest of the conversation should have been already discussed. And like, I mean, you've gone through all those objections should be handled and all that. It's only the final thing and presentations. And tell the truth, guys. Like, I mean, it's always if you have a ready buyer, say that. If you don't have a ready buyer and that's your marketing plan, you're going to get it, then say that, right? I mean, you don't want it to actually, and if your commission is this much, and to tell the truth, like, I mean, because you probably will be able to earn one deal with not telling the truth and not actually giving the right direction to them. But that's you have to make sure that this is your profession. You want to be in the market. So if you wanted to have a repeated customers, it's always better to tell the truth and show them the right approach to that. So that's what it's actually going to, you will have the continuous. You think about the referral, one customer, like, I mean, it's to say that not that one commission, they worth it, right? They at least worth $1 million, right? Because if you think about it, if one customer or client, if you have actually dealt with them and then you do a perfect job for them, at least they will make 2 times or 3 times, whatever the age group they are, they will move themselves, right? I mean, or they will buy, plus at least 1 or 2 reference they will give it, right? In your career, this thing. So think about it. So one customer is not that one commission, that one time transactions, they worth $1 million, right? That's the way you wanted to actually treat all customers. This is $1 million customer for me on a period of time, right? I mean, so when you have that in mind, you will ethically do business. So anybody wants to say anything? Any points? Let me see chat box. No, nothing on the chat box. Okay. Listing presentations, understand the reason for selling, right? I mean, because what are they actually doing it? Are they actually just downgrading, upgrading, or moving into a different city? What are they actually doing it, or is it just an investment, or sometime, separation, whatever that, understand, just to confirm that, understand the reasons for selling. Make sure to share the CMA statistics, because it's important. As I mentioned, leave the price with yourself, and then you actually recommend them, unless if you have already discussed with the client. And again, this is all based on client to client. What kind of rapport you have with that client, you need to adjust that, right? If you have dealt with that person earlier and this person knows that know you well, then it's a different scenario. Then you have to actually tweak it based on that situation. If you're going and you don't know how this person is going to react, then keep the price with yourself, keep it, and then ask them, how much, what's the number in your mind, right? I mean, they might come back with that some obnoxious number and completely off from what the number, the real numbers are. Then you teach them, walk them through the process and tell them this is what it is, right? So it's important that is you share those CMA statistics with them. And talk about yourself. As I mentioned, this was the one which is like that, the strategy, like your area of expertise, right? And you can, if you're farming certain areas, or if you have anything, you have been in the business for so long, because all those things in that you have sent it them in the pre-listing package. But it is important to remind them, that is, you should have that, they should have the confidence in you, that is, you have done this in the past and you're capable of dealing their business, right? So it's very important that is you actually do walk them through that process, and give a description of your overall services based on the commission. Like, this is what I mentioned to you. Always think about your return on investment, like ROI. If you're charging them 2.5% commissions, you think about it, what are the services you can do to them, right? Where such as staging or painting or some whatever, like, I mean, you need to actually see that based on the commission structure, or how much you're going to do it, and then you do that. If you're making only like a 1% commissions, yeah, then you think about it, okay, I'm going to spend around $1,000 to set this house, rest is mine. So then you have to actually list those services, right? I'm going to actually clean it up, help you with uncluttering this, how decluttering this places and all those things, and you list out those things. Talk about your commission structure, and eye contact, dress up well with your company badge. And somebody put something on the chat box. Some of them are asking, within how many days you can sell my property? Could you talk about this or answer? So, like, I mean, you don't want it to give a firm date, unless if you have a buyer customer ready to buy it, or you have in your networking, in your brokerage, you have already spoken your network and you know that there is somebody is there, yeah, then you openly do that. You should not tell that is, actually, I will be able to sell this properties within 14 days or 7 days, because you don't have that magic. Unless, again, as I mentioned, if you are willing to buy yourself, or your buyer is ready to buy it, then you go ahead and do that. Otherwise, you should never actually commit to a day, which is, and your best answer for that is, Mr. Seller, I am pricing this for as the market value. When the CMA shows in this neighborhood, the days, the property, the number of days on the market, you can see the DOM, right? I mean, days on the market, and an average days on the market in this area, properties are sold for $1 million, similar to your property, within 14 days. I'm expecting to happen for your property as well, because you're listing it correctly. I'm going to market it properly, and I have this network, and that's what the days of the markets now. You have to be flexible. If this is what, and you don't want to commit that, right? Anybody who's experienced people, how do you respond to that question? So Mohan was asking, some of them are asking, within how many days you can sell my property? Could you talk about this? Anybody wants to chime in?
Yeah, we could say, and what is the typical time that the area the house is selling? We could give a rough estimate for every pocket is a different number of days is selling. So you could say this is the area, this is the days normally typically taken. So that answer he can deny and is happening, right? So you could give answer.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you don't want to commit a date because again, guys, like, I mean, these things can actually a serious thing because that person can actually because if you commit something and if you agree, like if you are really confident and selling, then you should be really careful about giving a firm date. Otherwise, you should just tell them the truth. As Shiva mentioned, like, I mean, tell the truth is show the days in the market. This neighborhood is selling for such and such date, and I'm expecting the market is still hot. Like, I mean, we are listing it correctly. Now, that's where you can actually bring your seller on your side, right? If that listing price is obnoxious from what you're recommending and their expectation is, then you have to let them know, you know what, Mr. Seller, everything sold in this area, the days in the market was around 14 days, right? And everything is sold in this range. Now, if we are going to sell it, I mean, list it much more than the market range, it's probably will be in the market for long, right? So my recommendation is, so that's instead of giving a firm answer, you educate them. This is not an yes or no answer, right? I mean, can you sell it 14 days? You don't want it to say no, you don't want it to say yes, but you tell them statistics, right? I hope it's answered your question, Mohan. Okay, let me see in the chat box. Okay. Mohan, do you have any follow-up question?
No, thank you. Thank you so much.
Did that help you?
Yes, yes. Okay, thank you. Somehow we can, satisfy the sellers. Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, man.
All right. Okay, good.
I have one question, Menon.
Yeah.
So some agents kind of challenging. Okay, I can within a month or within 14 days, or I can buy the house. So, what's make the seller's mind? Is it really motivate the seller, or it will happen really because they are really challenged with the sellers? Hey, I put in your house for the next 14 days or within a month. It won't be selling. I can get your house. I will buy the house for myself. So, is it a right way to do that, or what do you think about that?
Absolutely. Like, I mean, but as I mentioned, if you're confident, if you have that kind of backup to buy it, I know a lot of real estate agents where they're well established, they have got the portfolio of their own. If they are not able to sell it, they have that money, they have that, like, I mean, the pool to buy it, to pick up the properties, which is a great thing. Like, obviously, like, I mean, what is seller is actually looking into it? Seller is looking to get the right price with minimum pain and sell it fast, right? So if somebody who is able to give that confidence, absolutely, it's a good thing. But that good thing which come with a underline word, be careful, because if you are not able to do that, if you don't have that backup, as you don't have a ready buyer, you don't have that money to buy for yourself or within your, I know certain brokerage, like, I mean, they have a few agents, they have got a pool of money and all that, they buy property together. When they will go and tell that buyer or the seller, if we don't get this the market price, we will buy it. Because they have that plan in place. So if you have something, as it's a great thing, like, I know, definitely, which is the seller wants to sell it fast to get the right price. They don't want it to keep opening the house for showing, like, I mean, open house, and nobody wants those kind of pains, right? I mean, they don't want it. So obviously, if somebody wants to actually have them, then it is definitely a good thing.
But in other hand, so the seller is going to be expecting the same amount what they are trying to sell. Say, so as an agent, so they're going to be paying more for that, right? Isn't it? So seller have mindset, okay, I have to, so but then I can go back to seller, hey, can you reduce the price that I'm going to buy? This kind of awkward, right? Isn't it?
So majority of the time when they actually commit something like this,
Yeah.
they will actually buy it at the lower price.
Lowest,
right? Because that's why you have seen a lot of marketing at gimmicks saying that if we don't sell it, we will buy your price, right? There is a disclaimer between the seller and the
okay.
and the buyer, right? I mean, if it is, definitely it will be there, but again, it's all, there is no one answer for that match. It's based on the client, the seller's situation. If the seller is actually, he is expecting $1 million, but you list it for $999 or whatever. So if he is expecting in pocket $1 million, and that's maybe something which is, as a real estate agent who has got the if you have that, thing, and then they will agree to them, okay, whatever you're asking, I can give you. I have my client. If I sell it outside, if some offer comes better than this, then it's a different scenario. But if I don't get any offer from the market, then I have people. So they will actually, you need to be careful when you're actually committing something. You make sure that is, you have that backup in place, and then you can actually commit to that. Yeah. Right, Matt, did that help you?
Yes, thank you, Menon. Yeah, it's helped. Yeah, it makes sense. Of course, definitely. It's like it's whatever I said, I have to stay on that kind of things, right, to make the yeah. But again, as I said, it's kind of hidden agreement with the seller. Okay, if I can sell it, or are you okay? This price, I'm going to buy it. So it makes sense for the seller too. Okay. This person tried his best, if can make it, so he's going to buy it. So it's kind of mutual understanding for each other. That's all ball game, right?
Absolutely. And that is also, like once you put it in the market and you're doing everything, and make sure, again, what, every time I'll reiterate that this thing, like you wanted to do business ethically, right?
Yes.
So you agreed with the client and the seller, and you put it in the market, you do everything possible to market the product. And then if you're still not, and the seller is also seeing what are the things you're doing it, and still you're not able to sell it, it's a confirmation back to the seller. Okay, fine, my agent actually tried everything, so now the market price for this is actually $1 million, so let's have that, right? I mean, it's not that you agreed to get that for $1 million and then you're not marketing it. It's not a good thing. Again, you do everything as in what do that, and then that will definitely there will be a mutual understanding between the seller and the agent for such scenarios.
Yes.
And again, when you're committing something, you are saying that you should be absolutely sure you have that backup in place. You will buy the property. Otherwise, you don't want to get into involve that, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. So, again, look at this slide. How will they select an agent? Exceptional service. What are they actually looking for? Least inconvenience, because they want to make sure that is, it is getting sold fast. They don't want to keep cleaning the house and keep the house ready for open houses and all that, right? I mean, they're looking for least inconvenience, right? Best marketing plan. What is actually giving it the best marketing plan? It's going to give you the least amount of time in the market, because you have a strong network. You have got actually had the track record. You have got a ready customer and all those things. What are they actually looking at? That the least amount of time in the market. They want to sell that fast, right? And market price listing. If you don't want it to underprice or overprice, market price, right? The market price is what is it's actually going to get it. That's where you're going to get maybe on a multiple offer, or actually the highest net result on that one, right? You price it correctly, and then you get the correct price for that. What happens on the discounted services? Like lowest commission, obviously your motivation is also actually low, because you keep thinking that I'm going to make only $500 from this. I'm not going to work hard. So your service will also actually have an impact on your mentality, will also be like that, so discounted commission, so lowest commission. Highest listing price, lowest sales price, right? Because you are hungry to get the listing. So the client agreed, 1.5, whereas it's only going to cost you around 850,000, but you still took the listing. It is good. Sometimes, it's not, if it is not saleable, it's not actually a really listing. So you're going to actually lower sales price on that one, because the product is not going to move. So when you're pricing a property, think about it. CMA is good, and again, you're actually everything that will house Sigma these days. A lot of other tools are there, but you should also remember few things. The 4 P's in the marketing, right? I mean, every product, not just the real estates, and every product, there's the 4 P's. The most important thing is the product, promotion, price, and the place. That's what make it the proper product to move in the market, right? I mean, the product is good, you do the right promotion, like all kind of advertisements and or whatever, that you need to price it properly. And the place is your location, right? And then, so where the house is actually to that, right? So learn your local market, preview property every week, like make sure that is when you're going for that listing presentations, you have enough fair ideas what's happening in that localities, in that neighborhood, what is selling and all that. You keep an watch on those one. And getting a listing sold is always begin with the price, because price is definitely an important thing for everybody. Like, I mean, of course, area and locations and all those things are there, product and house and all that, but price is also an important thing. So it's a very critical piece in when you're listing a price, right? Price it right, it will faster it sells. And always do the CMA analysis. So learn the trend in the neighborhood, because you want to know that how many days in the market, what is the price trend, and who's actually active, what kind of houses are you having, where you're going in the listings. You should have an idea about all that. Go in on a 5% under market value, so that you keep that buffer in negotiating. Like, that, okay, so, just keep it there, instead of just keeping it there, asking them and what the price is. You should have an idea and keep it under 5%. So in that way, you keep that 5% for your negotiation at the time of closing, right? You have to remember, once you list it, and when the offer comes, at what price you're going to accept the offer, you should have an idea at that time. Again, tell the truth, as I mentioned. So what's in the chat box? Agents are listing below market price for getting traffic. What's your view on that? Like, I mean, there is yes, you're right. It's a good strategy to do the to get the multiple offers and all that, under price, below market price. Again, it depends. We haven't seen in the past. We only started seeing this for the last 2 years, right? I mean, that's where it's actually increased the traffic. It's a good strategy, but not really under pricing it, because sometimes it will be really hard to get $150,000 or $250,000 over asking price, right? You should be very careful with the seller when you're suggesting a price. What is their expectation? You should know that how much money are they expecting in their pocket, right? So if you really list it around $300,000 below than their expectation, not necessary, you probably will get a 300,000 over asking, right? So it's not a good idea always. You have to see what the product is, what the expectation from the client, and then based on that, little lower than the market price, so that will increase the traffic, right? So this is actually, think about this. Who controls what? Location and financing, which is given. That means you can't change a house locations where the house is actually located. It is where it is, right? I mean, you can't actually change the street, because that's the house is that. You can't change the financing condition for the customer. If they're actually, credit is pretty good, then it's given, right? I mean, if it is actually not, they have some struggle and all that, that is also, you can't actually change it. So that one is given. What you control is the marketing, right? I mean, that's what it's actually pretty much an agent will control that, like, I mean, which you have to do it very nicely. And the price is, again, it's the market decide the price, right? Not you are actually deciding, right? I mean, if the market is actually in that certain area, selling well, it's actually doing well. And right now, again, for the last 2 years, we saw that the price was going crazy, because it's not that agent actually decide that price. It's the market is the one which decides. Condition of the property with the seller, because the seller will have to actually make it neat and clean. If they wanted to actually repaint it or whatever, that's actually the seller will learn. So this is very important to remember that who controls what. In that way, you can really focus and, educate your client how we actually going to do the listing presentation on that. Any question, folks? We are on the top of the hour, so I
have a
have
question
actually.
for Kannan. Kannan,
Yep.
I heard that the appraisal value is coming down from 50,000 to 250,000. Is it happening your mortgage when you getting a mortgage, the appraisal value coming less than that the price they paid for it?
Sorry, is that a mortgage question?
Yes.
Okay, no, I'm not actually sure about
I
that.
thought Kannan is there.
No, Kannan had some, I think, he said that he has some meeting, so.
So you heard about that one, and the appraisal value is coming down than the actual price they pay for it?
I'm not sure about that. I don't want to give you any wrong answer for the mortgage. So,
Perfect. So you know what? I'll just discuss that portion here.
Okay, Kanna, can I jump off?
Yeah, definitely. You can jump off. That's not a problem.
All right. Thank you very much. We'll talk to you all later. We'll take care. We'll speak with you next week.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Gopa.
Bye.
All right. Who was asking that wonderful question about?
That's me. That's me.
Savannah. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I heard that appraisal value is coming down from 50,000 to 250,000. Have you had any experience in your mortgage?
Yes, we're starting to see that. I've only seen it starting as of as of Monday. I've seen it. A couple of appraisals have been coming down. I haven't seen it on large scales yet. Definitely the Mississauga Brampton market. I'm sure the million plus properties or 1.5 plus properties are going to be probably seeing a deep. Also the Durham region as well. So we'll be seeing that. I'm starting to see that on townhouses in the Durham region at the moment, around $50,000 to $75,000 lower than the purchase price. That's right off the bat. We started seeing, and you know what, time is what is going to be telling us what we're going to be seeing further. But I can tell you right now, the amount of mortgage applications banks are working on is a lot. Many people are trying to refinance. Many people are trying to purchase during this time frame, right? So banks' intention is to lend out. At the same time, they want to protect themselves. So appraisal institutions will be a lot more strict going forward, especially with the comparables. They're not going to be as easy when it comes to, if your appraisal came a little bit lower, they're not going to be as easy as before when you can fight the appraisal and get it up, because they're going to be going on with what's happening in the market right now. And, I'm starting to see that in two appraisals that came, one 50,000 lower, one 75,000 lower. Both of them were townhouses in the Durham region. We tried to fight the appraisals, and you know what? They're not budging at all. And the bank is going to be taking it as is value based on the appraisal value. So clients have to bring up that difference.
All right, thank you, Kannan. I have one more question. And do we have any system that we could check it out how much that appraisal value is going to come for this property? They say driveway price and something like that. We have any system that we could check it out rather than putting the client in the hot seat? 100%.
On the buying side, it's a little bit more difficult, right? But of course, as a seller, if I'm listing a property, I would want to know what the appraised value is before I actually list up the property. So we can price it accordingly. But at the same time, in this market, we're still seeing over askings, right? In certain areas and certain circumstances, we're still seeing over asking. As a buyer, yeah, you can do a drive-by appraisal. I'll give you some contact numbers for appraisal companies that usually don't need 3 to 5 days, business days to get out to the properties. But if you are interested, you brought up a very good point. I do this. Why? Because I have the contacts. When I'm dealing with a buyer and I know Sunday is going to be the offer presentation and Thursday we see it, I call up the appraisal company to find out, hey, how much is that property value going for in the eyes of, what bank institutions are looking for. At the same time, we would provide them what offer we're going maximum on that. Rarely people do this. It's very uncommon, but it is possible. Drive-by appraisals can be done. But remember, if you are, putting an offer on a property for 1.2 million, it's listed for 999, you're putting an offer for 1.2 million right now. The person that outbids you by another 50,000 and buys 1.25,
appraisal may be in line for them when they do it, right? Appraisals are discretionary based on the appraiser. At the same time, it's backed up by the comparables, usually 3 to 4 comparables they use. But there is a little portion of discretionary pricing there, right? So it'll work in your favor if you do the appraisal, but at the same time, if you end up actually buying the property, $25,000 to $50,000 more, you should really see the appraisal actually being in line in that case as well.
Thanks, sir.
No problem. All right, if that's it, we'll end today's session. And we'll let you know what's happening this weekend on Wednesday regarding our coffee. If anyone has any other mortgage related questions, please ask me.
Hi, Kannan. How is the private lenders work on appraisal side of it? Is the flexibility there, or it is also same as like the banks?
When it comes to flexibility for appraisals, back in the day before I came into the industry, I've heard that there was flexibility in appraisals. Now, none. Even private financing companies, like if we're looking at some of the larger mix that handle $500 million, they are only using the same appraisal companies that institutional banks are using. Crosstown, HVI, NAS, Solidify, all of those are the main top appraisal companies, FNF Canada, that the banks are using, and that is exactly the same companies that the private lenders want as well. But then again, remember, private lenders, just such as banks, they deal with many different areas. The big, large appraisal companies, if you're buying a property, 2 hours north from here, they're not going to be sending one of their appraisers from Toronto over there. They're going to be looking at local appraisers in that area and using them. At the end of the day, the answer to that is no. Even on the private side, I don't think it's wise for me to say that you can probably get a higher appraised amount. There are definitely some nicer appraisal companies out there. If you need something done on the private side, I can definitely help you out. There are a few appraisal companies I would avoid using. I can give you recommendations like that, but I can't really say that there's a specific company that will give you a higher price than the other. On the private, same thing as the bank. Easy answer.
Thank you. And then,
Kannan?
I have a quick question. So, how it is different when we do comparable and the appraisal do the appraisal? Like, what kind of tools are they using? Like, they use different tools, or?
The appraisal company, there's 2 approaches that they do. They do a comparative market approach. Actually, there's three approaches. The comparative market approach is an objective view based on the information that is readily available. The upgrades that one property has compared to the upgrades that, and the qualities that you have for the property that you're buying, right? So if the appraisal company is looking at 3 comparables, what they would do is they would put a basic price on that property, all 3 of the properties, and they would add and deduct the value on that property compared to yours. Let's just say in that area, the property that you bought is a 2-car garage with a swimming pool in the back. Now, the comparables that they're looking for, if they find the exact same comparable, then you have no problem with how they obtain the value, right? But now, let's just say there is another 2-car garage property, larger land, but no pool. There's going to be a plus and minus in terms of value that the appraisal company, the appraiser would be putting, right? And now it's, in this scenario, there's no pool in the property that we're comparing towards yours. However, there is a larger land. So the calculation they defer is their own subjective approach. So that means as an appraiser, they get discretionary pricing of how much that value would be. And of course, even those subjective approaches based on their years of experience, again, some people try to say, the appraiser is wrong. He came back with a, lower value on this property and etc. Remember, appraisers go through an extensive, let's just say, training process. There's probably 6 multiple exams to write, and it's much more difficult to become an appraiser than a realtor, right? So it's easy for us to put the blame on the appraiser, but at the same time, it's good for us to understand why they think there is a difference. But at the same time, I've come across appraisers, that were that just undervalued the property compared to the comparables. It's a good question that you asked. It's the price is different based on each property that they're comparing towards yours. They add and deduct the value based on what your property has or doesn't have compared to the others, right? It gets very difficult for appraisers when they're dealing with properties that are different, right? I've had a property, it's one of my, I was actually, the manager of CIBC at that time. I was doing a refinance on his home, and he lives in the Church Street area in
Downtown.
the Highway 7 area, right? Sorry, not in Durham. It's more in the Highway 7 Markham area.
Yes.
That Church Street area. And he had a very unique property. They valued his property at 1.6 million back in 2017, but his property was, it wasn't like any of the other properties out there. It was in a roundabout. He had the largest lot. He had a massive pool. He had an outdoor jacuzzi, hot tub, sauna, everything. Large land, all of that. They were comparing his property to was similar properties that didn't have any of the, the layout, the view that he had. It did have pools, but it wasn't the same size. Just the area where it was located, it was different. And what the appraiser did he's like, I'm only valuing this property as 1.6 million. Why? Because we don't have similar comparables to this property. The highest property sold in that area was 1.6. Yes, this house is bigger, and better looking, when it comes to upgrades and etc. But I can only value it at 1.6. Why? Because there's no other comparables out there, right? So again, it comes down to discretionary pricing. I felt that was low. Banks understood that, it was possibly low, but appraisers can only do their job based on the facts that they have. And unfortunately, if there's not enough reasonable comparables out there for the appraiser to look at, then yes, your property may be undervalued. Right?
Yeah.
There's a few questions in the chat box. Let me just take a quick look at that. Appraisal companies, yes, I will give everyone the contact number. Actually, I'm just going to tell everyone right now. I'm on my phone, unfortunately, but Genesis Appraisals, if everyone wants to write this down, Genesis Appraisals, he's someone from our community, Tamil community, GENESIS Appraisal Services. I dealt with him on many occasions. He would do drive-by appraisals. He also works with institutional banks, so he's he's used by banks as an appraiser as well. Genesis Appraisals Limited. That's the company name. The contact number here is Get that for you. 416-292-4343. That's the contact number for Genesis Appraisals. Great individuals working there. They can definitely help you with drive-by appraisals if you need any assistance with that. Again, the phone number is 416-292-4343. I'll type that in the chat box as well. All right, so if that is it, we will end today's session. And we'll go from there. And you know what? If there's any other mortgage-related, real estate-related questions, have them all, save it. On Wednesday, when we get back to our, we'll join in with Salvana, and we'll answer all of that. Again, just another reminder: interest rates are rising. If you need anyone to get, pre-approvals, even though pre-approval is nothing but a piece of paper, in my opinion, if you need anyone, with mortgage qualification. With that in mind, everyone have a great weekend and stay warm. Thank you. Bye now.
ஏ ராசா ரைட் ஷேரிங் கம்பெனி ARASA.ca என்ற இணையதளத்துக்கு சென்று ஏ ராசா டிரைவர்ஸ் ஆப்பினை டவுன்லோட் செய்து டிரைவர்ஸாக வேலை வாய்ப்பை பெறுங்கள். மாதாந்தம் $4,000 வரை சம்பாதியுங்கள். வணிக நிறுவனங்கள் ஏ ராசா இணையதளத்தின் மூலம் மளிகை பொருட்கள் மற்றும் உணவுப் பொருட்களை விற்பதோடு வாடிக்கையாளர்களுக்கு டெலிவரி செய்யலாம். தமிழில் தகவல்களை அறியாளையுங்கள். GTA பற்றி 40 ஆண்டுகள் அறிந்து கொண்டவரும் வீடு விற்பனை துறை ஊடாக மக்களால் அறியப்பட்டவருமான சிவா பிள்ளை. 416-854-0005. Taxi broker licensed by City of Toronto.